We're gonna get started. My name's Nathan. I have known Rabbi Lilian for like a year, and I know he sometimes isn't here. So I told him, any week you're not here, why cancel the shiur? Like, honestly, if you're not here, okay, bring someone else to give a lecture. So he said, we have 1 week, so I'm here. I'm gonna fill in for just this week, maybe next week as well, we're gonna see. But I wanna just get a quick read of the room. By show of hands, how many people here believe in God? Just so I get a nice read of the room. Okay, good. So I want to ask somebody what God is, and then go with that mindset and see how that's relevant to me. Why that's relevant. Why should I care? By defining what we all mean by God, because I bet you $100, everybody has like a slightly different idea of what that means, or which aspect of that meaning they relate to. For example, he's a creator, right? Then you view yourself as a creation. Oh, so you owe everything to him. Or you view him as your father. Then you view it as a relationship. You're connected to him. You could even say he's your husband because he's the giver. You could say he's your wife because he's the world. He's nature. So there's different ways of relating to him. And the only reason you call him a him, we mostly see that he's referred to as a male figure, is because male represents giving. Female represents receiving. Receiving isn't bad per se, giving isn't bad per se. They can each be used for the wrong reasons. But in a relationship between a man and a woman, there's a logic to it. There's a wisdom to it. There's a plus and a minus. There's a giver and a receiver. Even if you go to the body parts, without getting too much graphic imagery, right? The male organ is a concave, or is it convex? Which one is convex? And the female organ is a concave. There's a plus and a minus. It's like they were made for each other. I'm not talking about just the organs. In general, these two energies, they're connected to each other. That's the whole system of the creation. So, has anybody ever seen this name? The bold 4 letters, it's over there. The Yud, Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. We've probably seen that name before. That's God's name. But is God the name, or is that the name of God? That's the name of God. So who's God? That's the name. What, am I worshiping the name? God forbid. So the mystics, the Kabbalists, the Jewish masters of our ancient tradition, that's really rooted in mysticism. What's mysticism? What's Kabbalah? By show of hands, how many people have heard of the word Kabbalah before? Before today? Okay. The word Kabbalah literally means to receive. But it refers to that aspect of our tradition that's been passed down by mouth, which we call sod. Sod means secret, or mystical. It's mysterious. Those are the aspects of the Torah which were received, which were understood, which were taught, but only to those that were really worthy. And the sages warned us in the Gemara and the Mishnah that every single day that passes, this wisdom is going to become darker and darker and darker in this world. That means it's harder to find people who know it, and it's harder to believe it. 2 things. Harder to find somebody who can teach it to you, and even if he taught it to you, harder to accept. Because the illusion of this world, as the Kabbalists say, is that of pure deception. The people who brought us to where we are, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they understood this. They actually discovered it. Other people in the world, they knew that spirituality was the truth. There was no person that didn't believe that the stone represents some sort of a metaphor in the spiritual worlds. They were connecting to spiritual entities. Even the people in Abraham's time. Abraham was like the first Jew, he discovered monotheism. But the people in his generation knew idol worshipping. That means there were many gods. So mysticism and spirituality as a concept was more well known the further you go back. The further you go back. Other nations, other cultures. Doesn't matter, you're Jewish, you're not Jewish. It has nothing to do with religion. Mysticism was a known way. Even the Egyptians in Mitzrayim, if you really think about it, it says in the Torah, they turned their staffs into snakes. Like a magic trick, but it wasn't with the conventional means that we have people today. It was with messing with kochot. Kochot means forces, powers. This is really what mysticism is. How to connect to the true higher power, which is the source of all of this power. So yes, there's other types of foreign worship, idol worshiping, which today really just means using your vessel, excavating it, tapping into the spiritual worlds, and not having cleaned your vessel. There are forces in these upper worlds that are impure forces, and that's what most people are connecting to. Okay, now let's make it more relevant. We said that Hashem, God, there's two aspects. There's one God, there's one aspect, but from our point of view, we can perceive him in two ways. One, he's male. That's the giving aspect. But there's also a female side, and that's the creator. That's the aspect of his being that we refer to as Borei, creator. It's the female energy. But that means that there was a male energy. The Kabbalists call it the Ein Sof. Ein Sof literally means the endless one. It's such a, I love that name. The endless one. It's like the infinite, the beyond. It's where these two facets of our relationship with Hashem, they're one. The upper light and the desire to receive it are one. If you understand what I just said. The upper light and the desire to receive that light, these two things are one. And obviously that's a very deep sentence right there. That means the vessel and the light, the giver and the receiver, the male and the female, all multiplicity. Take the furthest opposite and take its absolute opposite. Those two complete opposites are one. That's the Shema. Where he comes and tells you, listen, O Israel. Who's Israel? That's us. We're part of the nation of Israel. Although there are two types of Jewish people among the nation of Israel, which we'll get into that in a second. There's two types of Jewish people within the nation of Israel, meaning two types of Israelites. But we'll get there in a second. That's talking to us. It says, hear, O Israel, the Lord, this is the English version, the Lord, your God, the Lord is one. Why not just say the Lord is one? Why are you bothering with two extra words, two extra names? The Lord, your God, the Lord, is one. God is one, right? There's one God. That's what the Shema is trying to tell me, no? There's one God. No, we have to reread the grammar. It doesn't say there's one God. There is one God, but that's not the point of how deep this verse is. It says, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. These three things mark the three ways that we can perceive the divine, but those three things are really one, and that's the secret of the Shema. Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem, this represents the deepest possible level of knowledge, to understand those three words, how these three can be one. Does that mean there's three gods? God forbid. There is no three gods. But if you've ever seen those 10 sefirot that I was talking about earlier, those 10 circles, anybody seen this graph of 10 circles? They're formed in a way that they're connected by 22 lines. Those are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet that the Midrash swears to you that this creation was created by these Hebrew letters. 22 connections between 10 dimensions. This is the system of the spiritual worlds. This is the system of creation. This is the way he created it. Every world, this is a world. Every world has 10 dimensions to it. The scientists are onto something. They've been trying to tell us through their own science, and we're starting to believe it. But our own tradition is telling this to us. They knew this. But now science is getting very haughty. They're feeling very arrogant. Yeah, it's the first time we're figuring out, wow, there could be parallel worlds. Wow. There could be other dimensions. Don't go too far. Don't even go to Judaism. Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Christianity. Go to their mystical traditions. All of them. They have. Every one of them has mystical traditions. Islam is called Sufism. They have a mystical tradition in Sufism. Very similar to that of ours. Kabbalah. The ideas, the principles. What's all of this wisdom for? Why should I care about any of this? We all have a vision of what we want. Let me rephrase that. Of who we know we are. Like deep down. Some vision. Might not be too clear, it might be very clear. Everybody has some sort of perspective on who really they are. Everybody knows that we have the external presentation that we give the world, and we have the inner part. Most people might have some, we all have some idea of what the inner part is, despite the external part. But sometimes you can't seem to find her, or find him, that person. Where'd he go? All of a sudden you walk in and all you see, there's a group of guys sitting down. You're like, oh, yo, what's up? This is an example. Or a girl. It could be, everybody has internal and external. It's not a judgment. It's not a bad thing. Everybody has it. But sometimes it doesn't align with who you know you are. If you want to bridge that gap between what you know, who you know you are, but the way that you feel that that's what you keep reverting back to, that takes dedication. It takes physical, emotional, speech, and mental discipline. The wisdom of Kabbalah teaches you how to go through these 4 phases. You can control your body. You can control your emotions. You can control your mouth. You can control your mind. That's what's waiting at the end of such a journey. Let's relate this to what's happening in Israel right now. Anybody know the root? I want to know the root cause of the conflict in Israel right now. Does anybody have any suggestion?
Too much conflict among Bnei Israel.
Too much conflict among Bnei Israel. You literally stole my speech now. Okay. That is really the root. But let's get there. By the way, anybody have time? So I just know.
25.
8:25?
Right in front of you, bro.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was the root. Now, come a little bit away from the root. That's too deep for me. I can't go there. I want to know about in the Torah where we see this conflict that's in Israel, that's happening with Israel. A story in the Torah, or the characters in the Torah, they have a special relationship, and it exactly embodies the conflict between Israel and Palestine in that region. Abraham had how many children? Anybody? 2? 1? No, wrong. All wrong. Okay. Yeah.
7, right?
8.
8.
Very close. He had 8 children. Remember, the seed of Abraham, out of them comes the Jewish people. But he had 8 children. We only come from one of these 8. That was Isaac. But the other one, meaning the one that was greatest, second to Isaac, is Ishmael. Ishmael is called, everybody in here is Jewish, right? Just to make sure. Okay. He was called a wild man. From the get-go, the Torah is telling you that there's something about the nature of this people. The descendants of Ishmael are Hamas. They are the extreme version of the energy of Ishmael. But Ishmael himself comes from someone. Where did he come from? Cain. What did Cain do? What happened with Cain and Abel? Anybody know the story between Cain and Abel? Between the brotherly rivalry. That all of the conflict in the world is because of that rivalry. Between Cain not being able to get along with his brother Abel. Quickly, let's go through the story. Quickly. And then you will see the parallel of exactly what is happening. You're going to be shocked. Cain and Abel were siblings. They are the first two children of Adam. First two children of Adam. That means they are energies that exist within Adam. But anyways, that's a different thing. Cain was the firstborn. According to spiritual law, firstborn does have extra benefits. He's first. He contains the ikar, the main aspect of what the father was trying to create, right? Or the mother, together, obviously. So, Cain thought that he was worthy of a greater lot than Abel. But this is the story. Cain comes up with the idea, I'm going to worship God. He gathers things, he says, I'm going to sacrifice these things to God. It wasn't the best of his crop. It wasn't the best of his field. It was something that he had. He said, hey, this guy created me. Thanks, bud. Here, thanks. That was kind of Cain. Didn't realize what was happening. Abel took advice from Cain. Said, oh wow, it's a good idea. Okay, wow. Well, I'm super grateful and I really love to get closer to whoever this is that created me. Right? That's what Abel's saying. And so he's feeling a greater desire to connect, and he takes from the best of his field. The best of his field, the best of his animal, and whatever it is, it was the best, and he brought it up to Hashem in a sacrifice offering. Cain's got cancelled. Cain's got rejected. Cain, the firstborn one. And as a firstborn, that's the firstborn energy. Excuse me. Is that not the spiritual law? Okay. Cain is exactly what Hamas is. Abel is exactly what the Jewish people are. Cain got rejected because he didn't know the value of what God was. Didn't feel compelled to give that greater sacrifice. But whatever it was, Abel's was accepted. Whatever it was. What should Cain have done? Should have said, whoa, I wasn't expecting it. Okay. Mine got rejected. Did I do something wrong? Maybe I did something wrong. No, that wasn't his, that was not how he thought. He was like, excuse me? That's arrogance. That's the energy of kin'ah, jealousy. What do you think? I don't want to be so politically incorrect. What do you think is motivating what Hamas is doing? And what really Iran is doing? What do you think is really motivating all of this attack on Jewish people? Whether they know it or not, whether we know it or not, the Torah is trying to tell us something. It's jealousy. Our sages are teaching us the reincarnations of these individuals in the Torah. They're coming to tell you that there will be a time in the end of days, whatever that means. It's not the end of the world, really, it's the beginning of a new world, separate subject. But towards the time of what we call the end of days, which is the generation that we're in, there's going to come a rise in the energy of Ishmael. And they're going to subjugate the Jewish people if they don't have their own house in order. Which is why you really got to the essence of the conflict. The energy of Cain and Abel exists within each and every single individual in this room. is called the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara. Cain is the Yetzer Hara, the energy that feels entitled. That's the energy of entitlement, from which comes arrogance, from which comes all of the other bad traits. Hevel represents the Yetzer HaTov. Okay, is Cain a bad person then? Like, he was a creation of God. Cain was a person. He had a lot of potential. Just because he represents the Yetzer Hara, he's the energy of Ra. Evil has a plan in the world. Evil has some sort of a piece in the world. God created evil. So, what do we want to do with this Yetzer Hara? Should we kill him? I think that's a good idea. Who agrees with me? Anybody thinks to kill him? If you had the power to, you could just kill that voice in you that keeps you from growing to who you know you are. Just kill him. Get him out. Take the jealousy out. Just kill him. Or recognize that there's a power behind that energy that can be transformed and utilized to serve Hashem. What would Hevel do? He sees opportunity. Wow. Hey, you see, my brother Cain. Yeah, he represents my Yetzer Hara. Hey, I shouldn't hate my Yetzer Hara. Yes, it's a war. It's a war. But at the end of the day, I want to take him and make him mine, so I can use him to continue serving Hashem. So that's the mindset that we have to have. The aspect within us that we don't like to think of. We don't really like to admit it. We don't like to confront it. We don't like to expose it. That's the internal world. We're too afraid to present that on the outside. That aspect of every single person's being begs to learn how to become free. They're crying, but you can't hear it all the time, which is why it's so sad. Your higher self is conscious right now. It sees you right now. We have a soul. It's aware of everything that's happening. You think that she or he doesn't experience? Doesn't have feeling? If you're not going to do it for yourself, do it for your higher self. Which is really who you are. So, anybody watch the movie Inside Out?
Not the movie.
Anybody?
Not the movie.
Inside Out 2.
That was the second one.
Just the first.
No, the one that was in the theaters?
Oh no, I've only watched the first.
Oh, okay, yeah, there's a second one that came out. Okay, so what's really happening here? She was split up into many characters. This represents this aspect of her, this represents that aspect of her, this represents... Who was the main character?
Joy. I enjoy you say, but also her rival.
Joy! Joy! That was the main character. Interesting, no? Split up a person into a bunch of parts, but the main character in that movie was Joy. Okay, now I want you to imagine that you're in a similar situation. The one that is in you, which we call Joy, was placed into some sort of a robot. She was like, oh, woo, woo. She learned, I'm gonna have to learn how to use this body and fulfill the mission of why I came here. That's what the soul says. It says, wow, okay, I'm down here, I became incarnated. This is what the soul really feels right now when a person, for whatever reason, isn't revealing him or her. They suffer. That's called the tsa'ar of the Shekhinah, the pain of the divine presence. Hashem suffers. That's really the main thing. That's really the main part of all of this. People who think Hashem does not have feeling are full of crap. Hashem has feeling. Maybe not in the essence. Yes, absolutely not in the essence. He has no feelings, no aspects, no parts in the essence. But the way we relate to him and the way he relates to us, you seriously think that he doesn't have feelings? Then why should we care? It's not a real relationship, it's just an authoritarian dictatorship. Do what I say. But no, he wants to have a relationship with you. That would be experiencing the depths of your own soul. Because that soul, that ani, that energy that you say, I, comes from above. That energy is not from here. So you have to learn how to accommodate her, or accommodate him, by cleaning the vessel. That's the whole chokhmah, wisdom of Torah, which all of the sages say, you got to learn on 4 levels, not 1, 4. 1? No, 4. Pshat, Remez, Drosh, Sod. Sod. That sounds familiar. Yes. That's what we said in the beginning. That's the Kabbalah. That's part of the process. That's the 4th level. There's more levels of understanding the Torah than what we see with our eyes in this world, the way we interpret it. Just keeping that in your mind. I don't know if this is going to have any impact on anybody. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does really matter. But if you get one thing from this, Hashem wants to be with you more than sometimes we realize we want to be with Him. He wants to be revealed more than you want to receive. Think about how crazy that is. That means that there is a pain when He sees that He's not able to contact you. The signal, for whatever reason, became jammed. What we call klipot, by the way. Klipot, it's like when your connection is not very good. It's like there's just trash in the air, like spiritual trash, and it's not allowing you to really perceive the light. Because that's what it would, there's no visual, physical light, but that's what would allow you to recognize your connection. When you can feel it. Everybody knows what it feels like to be connected to it. It's the feeling of unbelievable, euphoric pleasure of being who you are. That's the greatest pleasure. And being able to live that. Other people experience it through sex. You can experience it through eating a good hamburger like we're going to do tonight. You can feel it by playing basketball. Some people get high either with the drug but some people get high playing basketball just by playing it. I know people like that. They really get a kick out of running or playing, and man, it makes them feel like a kid again. All these things. It brings back the joy. It's bringing back the joy for whatever reason it is. It reminds you of something you love about your past that you can't let go about that part. That's why we stuck to it. That's why we like it. It reminds us of that joy. All of these things that God is like trying to hint to you. Hey, look, all the pointers are in one direction. Within. Everything is pointing within. Everything is pointing at this concept. So, I think we did good. I think we're going to call it a night. It's like 8:45 around. Yeah. Almost. It's okay. We're going to cut it now. We're going to go to Melrose Burger. That's what's on the schedule tonight. He said everybody has enough because they gave him a certain amount of money to spend per person this time. So everybody has around 11 or I think with a $13 or $11 to spend. That's enough for a burger. Oh, okay, that's great. That's honestly the best part. But you also get a fries. But on top of that, you get to eat it. So, enjoy.
Are you posting it somewhere?
I think so.